Hi, in this video I'm going to go through some of the important things to think about when you're purchasing a folding or trestle table. Over here I've got a few different types of folding and trestle tables, and I'm going to show you some of the advantages and disadvantages of each one. I'm going to start with the trestle tables. While it may seem like all trestle tables are the same, they're actually very different. Now over here I've got two common types of trestle tables. These are both catering grade, and what you'll notice is they are not exactly the same size. So if you're trying to match trestle tables to ones you've already got, you'll have to make sure that the size is exactly the same. So in this case you've got over an inch difference between the two trestle tables when lined side by side. Also notice the one is wider than the other. Now if you're wanting maximum seating at your trestle table, some of the trestle tables come with this cross beam over here, and as you can see the chair cannot get all the way in. While this design, for example, you can see that you can put a chair right in and someone can sit at the head of the table. Now over here I have the underbelly of this trestle table, and what you'll notice is it's only holding place on one of the legs. Now on this alternative design you can see that it's got this holding both legs in a type of wedge. Now from experience what I've noticed is this type is better to fit more people around the table, because as you can see there's nothing blocking a person sitting at the head of the table. But if you look at this angle of the legs, if you're pulling the trestle tables without lifting them, this can actually come out of its lock and the whole trestle table can collapse. Watch this. So even though it was locked in place, if you are quite rough with the trestle table, you can see that the whole table can collapse. But then you do get that extra seat at the head of the table. Part of the reason why that happens is because of this angle here. In my opinion, this angle is not obtuse enough. It is too close to 90 degrees. If it was set like that, I think the table would be more resilient to falling over. This one, on the other hand, you can see that this angle is wider, and being wider, it's actually harder to collapse this table. But having said that, if you do not fasten these properly, you will see that that too can happen, although when it is the other way around, it is more difficult for that to fall in. Now, whichever table you get, it should come with rubber feet. There you can see the rubber feet is intact and it's of a good quality. Over here, we've got a different type of foot, but still intact, and it is pretty firm. Now trestle tables come in different thicknesses. This is pretty thin. So if I measure it with a vernier, it says 0.8, but that includes the powder coating. So this is a 0.6 millimeter table. Now this one on the other hand says 1.07, but that also includes a powder coating, and this is probably 0.8 millimeter thick. So while over here we've got two tables that have a different construction, they are also of different sheet steel thickness. Why that's important is the thicker the table, obviously the more weight it can bear and the less it will deform when there's uneven pressures on the face of the table. Now inspecting the tabletop, if I brush my hand over the top, it is completely flush. Now there are spot welds that have taken place underneath in order to fasten the leg system, but it is not coming through unnecessarily on the tabletop. But if you have a look at this particular one, you can actually see the spot welds all along the tabletop. Two there, two there, two there, two there, two there, and I can actually feel it with my finger on the tabletop. Now over here you can see some impressions that have been made in this thin tabletop. This is one of the reasons why it's better to get a thicker sheet steel tabletop than the thinner one. However, the thicker the tabletop, the heavier the table is going to be to carry. When buying second-hand tables, look out for rust, especially on the hinge, because a rusted hinge will become very difficult to work with over time. Sometimes even new tables already show rust here. These tables are powder coated, and you could find a good one by just checking how resistant it is to scuffs. For example, if someone scratches the surface of the table, is the paint just going to peel off, or is it quite resistant to scratches? And you can already see the paintwork coming off. And look at the powder coating there. You can see that it's got these imperfections, almost like it's bubbling. So that is telling me that the paintwork was either not done properly, or the metal had already started rusting and then they powder coated over it. Overall, this is not a good finish, and I'm not surprised that some of the paint has already come off. Look at that. When these tables are left outside, they can often rust. If you're going to be using the table frequently, have a look at the design. Check if this design will operate neatly and reliably over time. In this case, this is a good design because many repetitions, opening and closing, will not wear this out that easily. And over here they've got a nylon threaded nut that will stop it from coming loose and the leg system from falling apart. This table on the other hand is much stiffer, and you've got to make sure that this is locked in place. My only worry with this is this will fail over time. Now another thing to look out for are any sharp edges or burrs. Now these ones have been wrapped neatly, and even if I rub my finger over it, I'm not going to cut my skin. But if you look at these ones, you can actually see there's a sharp edge there, and if I go like this, you can actually see how it's scratching into my skin. Over there it's even worse, and you could easily tear a tablecloth, or somebody brushing past could tear their pants. One of the nice things about trestle tables is they're supposed to be pretty firm. So it's always a good idea to do a test, a wobble test, and see how well the table can handle vibration. So if someone had to walk by the table and knock it, would the whole table just fall to pieces? Would the glasses on the table remain upright, or would they fall over? So if I independently wobble these legs, you can see that the leg that's got the splint is much firmer than the leg that hasn't. Why? Because obviously it hasn't got the splint. So in this case, I'd prefer to choose a better quality table that's got the splint here and there. Now this leg does have a lateral band here to stop the leg from moving side to side. So that would be if someone was pulling the table sideways. Now you might be in the market for a folding table, and I'm going to demonstrate 3 different folding tables. So over here we've got one that is held in place by these pin locks. Once the pins are in place, you can see that it resists you from folding the table, albeit after quite a bit of travel, it only stops you from folding. Now in this case, the same principles apply. You can see that we wouldn't be able to get someone to sit at the head of the table. This one is held in place by a ring. Once you release the ring, the legs can move. The legs are tight, so they don't just fall over. When you open it, you push that out, and then you put the ring there. This is a good design. Some tables even have a lock over here to hold it in place. Now when trying to match your folding table to your trestle table, you'll have to be very accurate with the dimensions. You can see that this one is higher than that, but not as high as this. In terms of the width, this one is wider than that, and the same width as this. In terms of the layout here, you can see this one has a bullnose edge, while these are square. Now one of the problems with folding tables is even when they are pushed out straight, you can see they leave this gap in the middle there. So if you're going to be using this for studies or things like that, you're going to find that this is going to be bothersome. And you can actually see how this does not meet up neatly. Another problem with folding tables is they often don't align properly once they are set up. For example, if I take my screwdriver and I run it along the table, notice how it drops down there. And if I go this way, you can see how it is getting stuck. Now over here, I have a spirit level to demonstrate one of the major problems with folding tables. Now sometimes you can press it out and try and straighten it, but other times you just cannot get that right. And here's a smaller folding table, and this particular one is locked in place with this clip which moves from unlock to lock position. And obviously the benefit of the folding table is it's easier to transport because it is much shorter. Now lastly, over here I have what we would call a camping table, also a folding table, and this has an aluminium frame. It's got this tabletop which is just hardboard. The benefit of one of these type of tables is they're very light. For example, this folding table weighs less than 5 kilograms, coming in at 4.78 kilograms. While the other tabletop I previously packed away is almost double at 9.8 kilograms. So this aluminium camp table is much lighter than the regular folding table. So while you're definitely going to get the benefit of weight reduction, you are going to have some challenges. One of the challenges with this light duty aluminium table is the frame is very weak, and what I mean by that is it can deform very easily. So if you bump it or if the table drops, you are going to find that you're going to have to realign the frame. That is how thin the frame is, and that is why it is so light. Right, now this is the underside of the folding table, and what you do have are extendable legs. So in this case I just depress the nipple here and I lengthen the legs. I then can lock it in place like that. And the same on the other side. One of the nice things about the aluminium tables is that they don't rust. What is nice about these aluminium framed ones is you can see that it provides a 180-degree tabletop. As you can see, my spirit level is flush. While over here, here's my plastic top folding table, and you can see that it does have this alignment problem. Now you can get better quality folding tables that don't have this problem, but this is your entry-level budget folding table. What's also nice about the aluminium frame one is you can see that you can't even put a screwdriver through the middle, while here you can see I'm actually embedding quite easily into the opening here. However, the downfall of a very light table is that it is not sturdy at all. If I just poke at this table, you can see how easy it is to wobble. And if I do the same here, you can see that this one is far more sturdy. Having tried this, even the wind gets this thing shaking. The other problem is the surface deforms quite easily. So this is very much a light duty tabletop. Although while the trestle table does show the impressions, it is very hard to break through the sheet steel on a trestle table. And similarly, this plastic tabletop is actually quite resilient. Although these light colored plastic tabletops do get dirty very easily. Although if this is scraped on a rough surface or on a floor, it actually makes it harder to clean the plastic. Even if you use strong chemicals, you often see the abrasions, which often are a different color. And lastly, if you're going to be using your tabletop to record things, maybe you want to put this in a library, the trestle table is a very noisy tabletop. And here I've got a sound pressure level meter, and I'm just going to do an informal test, and I'm just showing you how loud this actually is. And over here, the plastic one is actually quite a bit softer. One of the disadvantages of the plastic tabletop is that you can't put your hot dishes on top of this tabletop. While the trestle tables are made out of steel, they can handle hot dishes.